Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie. Hello and welcome to The Money Factor. I'm Richard Naylor, your host. Today's show is about web marketing, and my guest is Braden Russom. He's with Burst Marketing, a company that specializes in web marketing and marketing in general.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
Thanks, yeah. Excited to be here.
Great. Let's start with a little background on Burst Marketing.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, Burst is one of Albany's leading strategic marketing firms. We really do soup to nuts marketing. Our real sweet spot is the clients who come in the door and have a specific goal they want to achieve, whether it's 20% growth in a given year, or 100 new leads, or 1,000 new clients, or whatever that is. Helping them map out the way from where they are now to achieving that goal.
So that would kind of mean that you deal more with companies, they're coming to you and they already know they have a problem. Whereas, as opposed to, there are probably a lot of companies out there that probably need help but haven't realized they have a problem.
Yep, that's true. That's very true. Yeah. Very often, a lot of the phone calls we get are people who say, "Hey, I need a website." Okay. And really, our first question is, why a website? Because sometimes that is what they need, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes what they really need is an updated approach to the way they're doing all their other marketing. And that's where the conversation really starts.
So that strikes me as a huge advantage for a company that doesn't just say, "I do websites," because otherwise you couldn't have asked that question.
Right. And that's really, Burst was actually formed out of two other companies. One called IntelliSites, which was a web design and search engine marketing company, and another called Impress, which did graphic design and logos and billboards and all that other stuff. Both of them were they would pass each other business, and they saw the need over time to provide something that tied all those services together, so that really they could ask the question of, great, you're doing this website, you're doing this logo, what are you getting out of it?
Great fit,
business results is it doing? Right. Yep. So we added a guy who has Fortune 100 experience in marketing strategy, and Burst was really formed out of that.
Super. Yeah, you talked about, like, you don't need a website, you might need something else. Let's broaden that a little bit. Before we do that, though, I wanted to ask you, I was looking up things, and you see digital marketing and you see web marketing. You see social media.
Yeah.
How do those things relate, and what's the difference? When shouldn't you say digital marketing? When should you be saying web marketing?
Right. Yeah, it's that's all kind of fuzzy.
Oh, okay. So I shouldn't feel bad.
Yeah, no. It's a confusing landscape. Marketing is changing as fast as the internet is changing. So there's a lot of change all the time. Generally, I think digital marketing encompasses everything from the web to mobile technologies to social media. Anything that happens that's not printed on paper.
Okay. So even if we tape this show, if we put it on the internet, it becomes digitized.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, even some of the way television works now, you could even sort of consider that digital marketing, depending on how it's done.
Right.
Web marketing is a little easier to define. It happens on the internet. It's web marketing.
Okay.
And then social media, or things like Facebook, Twitter, specific sets of kinds of web marketing, kinds of digital marketing.
Okay.
So, although there's weird crossover there as well, because Facebook and Twitter are big mobile phone apps. So is it web? Is it digital? I don't know. Is it social? I don't know.
Right.
It's all kind of confusing, yep.
Now, you mentioned Twitter, and I hadn't even thought of that when we first talked about the different types. And so we have like four different things, or maybe we have three. How do they fit together? Is that something that people think about very much?
Yep. Yeah, they do. That's one of the things that we really like to handle at Burst, is fitting all those things together. It's very common that a small business, they just have to prioritize. They don't have unlimited budget to do everything that they want to do, so they really have to pick the things that are going to work the best. Fitting them together is oftentimes the big challenge, because with limited budgets, with limited time, and what is a seemingly unlimited amount of variety in marketing approaches, figuring out things like the key message that's going to tie them all together, the key places where all of those things will drive your traffic. For instance, is it your website, is it your Facebook page? Figuring out those sort of almost consistencies and creating those, what we think of as marketing funnels,
Okay.
is really, it can be quite a challenge.
So it's not just should I use Twitter, it's if I'm using Twitter, and maybe I should be, how does that fit in with the web?
Right. And really, how does it fit in with what your business is trying to accomplish at the end of the day? Twitter is not a fit for everybody. Facebook is not a fit for everybody. It's really about defining what the end goal is you're trying to accomplish, and then fitting the marketing tactics to that.
Yeah, I was thinking about, okay, the town of Colonie.
Right.
You know, how much do we have to worry about whether it comes up first on Google as opposed to the second page? Because, you know, this is the town we live in. They're not two towns. We're not competing with another town within Colonie.
Right, right.
So is that one of the kind of things that you would think about?
Sure. Yeah. For a lot of towns, you typically don't need to do as much on the web because people will know your name anyway and they will find you.
Right.
It's not like somebody searching, what town do I live in?
Right.
And then you need to answer the question for them. They already know.
Right.
So yeah. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I guess like a tiny little question we could throw in there. Facebook, would you say most businesses should be on Facebook? Or is that something we shouldn't even say? Because I think a lot of people think about it, well, I should be. I feel guilty. Everybody else is talking about it. They say, like us on Facebook and win a $50 prize and buy a car.
Yeah, yeah, it's very common. One of the things, I do think Facebook is a fit for many businesses, especially businesses who are more business to consumer.
Okay.
B2C businesses, I do think, make a lot of sense on Facebook, but the challenges are very different.
And that would be business to?
Business to business.
Oh, I thought you said business to C.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, B2C make a lot of sense on Facebook.
Okay.
B2B
Gotcha.
are
So
not
B2C would be business to client?
Business to consumer.
Consumer, okay.
So that's guys like retailers, people who sell a thing to a particular person, versus Burst, you know, we don't sell our services to a consumer, we sell to another business.
Right.
You know. Typically the B2C businesses find Facebook an easier and a better fit for a tool. B2B businesses are typically a little bit different. Monetizing Facebook can be a little bit tricky. Figuring out what the real metrics are from that can be a little bit tricky. But to answer your question, I do think that for the most part, Facebook does make sense as a marketing tool for most businesses. If
you're helping somebody with Facebook and you say, okay, this is something that you probably should be doing, you deal with clients, they're on Facebook, it seems like this might even be a site that they would want to like because they're going to follow you for some reason, like a theater, a movie theater, where you go every week and you love movies.
Yeah, that's a great example.
So there's a lot of content. In those kind of cases, what are the kind of things that you think about in terms of how to use it? Because like everybody should probably have a website, but how do you use a website?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In social, the real challenge tends to be how do you fill it with content that your audience is going to be interested in, and how do you do that consistently?
Not just how do we tell them what we want them to do?
Right. Yeah, there's a kind of a rule of thumb in social, which is that anything you put to your social media page should be 80 to 90% conversational, 10 to 20% promotional.
That's a great thing to remember.
Yeah, and it's a good rule of thumb to go by. So 8 out of 10 things you post should be, hey, we got this new movie out, you know, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it, or have you seen any good movies lately, to use your example of a movie theater. And then, 10, 20% should be, hey, we're doing this great deal, you should buy a ticket for it. Okay. Because that seems to be what people expect from social.
Now, your title is Web Manager, Web Marketing, right?
Yep, yeah, the Web Marketing Director, yep.
So what do you focus on when you get a client?
Typically my job sort of starts and ends in building the web end of any marketing strategy we're going to do. So most clients these days are looking to drive traffic to a website, because once they're there, you can get a lot of data on how well it's working.
Okay.
So my job in a nutshell is to get visitors to a particular website, and then figure out how do I get them to do what we call converting, which is either buying something is the ultimate conversion.
Right.
But there are small ones in the meantime. There are things like signing up for an email newsletter, things like downloading informational documents, anything that can deepen the connection that you have with one of your web visitors.
Okay.
So that's
and that would
my
have
job.
them interacting and thinking about you.
Correct. Yeah. And really, what you want to do is, if you think about the funnel, there may be 1,000 people out there who are looking for what you do. Maybe 100 people end up on your website. Maybe only 10 of them get to your contact page, and then maybe only 2 or 3 of them actually pick up the phone and call you.
So that percentage that you reach is really important. That first thing probably has more to do with, if it's a good website, maybe I should back up, has a lot to do with how many of the people who are potential buyers, which might only be, maybe you were saying 2% or something.
Right.
Are actually going to be reached in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get 2% of 10, that's not very good, but if you get 2% of 10,000,
Right. Yep.
that helps.
Yep. And really, there's ways to optimize both ends of the funnel. There's ways to put more people in the top of the funnel, and there's ways to make subtle adjustments to your website so that more of them end up converting out the back end. So.
You mentioned some letters to me before, and I want to go broader than that, but
Sure.
Search engine optimization, you were saying SEO, had to look it up.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. We do that to people too, everybody does.
Yeah.
CDTA, it's just say it's the bus company, right? No, it's Capital District Regional Transportation. So SEO, and then let's broaden that into other aspects of that finding the website.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, so SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. It's a fancy term for getting more traffic to your website from Google, from Bing, and from Yahoo. Mostly Google. That's a really key marketing approach for a lot of businesses these days. In the same way that if most people were looking for something these days, they don't go and find their phone book and open it up.
Even though we get 3 of them now.
Right, yeah. I just throw them out. I don't know what you do with them.
I recycle almost 2 of them and keep one.
Yeah. The Google is really replacing the phone book. So if you were to look up things like Pizza Place in Albany, the higher you are in that list of results, the more traffic you'll get to your website. And
I
the
would have
results
picked
are
up the iPad or the Chromebook, and
Right.
not the phone book.
Right, yeah. And the results are actually substantially different between position 1, 2, and 3 on Google. If you're in position 1, you could end up with somewhere between 38-42% of the traffic that's actually.
Wow, so it's not even just the first page. It's really high on the first page.
Right.
That's a tall order.
It is, yeah. The difference between position 1 and position 2 can be somewhere between 40% at position 1 down to 10 to 12% at position 2.
Wow.
So there's a drastic difference.
And I was thinking page 2 or 3.
Right.
How far do you think somebody's willing to go? Have they measured that?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of pages.
Yeah. The stat I have off the top of my head is that once you're in position 1 on page 2, you're going to get about 0.5% of clicks.
Wow.
So 200 people need to look for something
before you
get one
seen.
visitor.
Wow.
Right. So, and that's kind of across industries, and it's different industry to industry. But being on page 2 is almost non-existent.
And this is, it seems to me as a user that once I'm on a device and I use it for a while, I type in something and just about immediately what I'm looking for comes up.
Yep.
But we changed the name of our website recently. We changed servers. We changed the whole web name.
Yep.
And we're getting everything that used to be except the new one on page 1.
Yep.
So how do you manage a situation like that?
Yeah, that's tricky. SEO is very, very complex. There could be any number of things going on with your site. I don't want to pitch here.
No, it's really
but you should talk to somebody
right.
who's really a search engine expert,
right.
who'd be able to look at all the things there.
Deep,
yeah.
Right.
There's the things you want to look at are, do you have the right keywords in your website? And then beyond that, are there things going on your server that may be getting in the way of you ranking in the right places?
Okay.
And for sometimes it just takes time. If you change your name today, Google might not find out about it for another 2 weeks. So that may change a little bit over time.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. That could be a million different things.
So we've got, on the website, we're trying to get people to your website, and obviously finding it is important.
Yep.
So that was like the first part of the funnel, and you had 3 of them altogether. I kind of forgot what the second one was, but okay, what is the second thing? You let them find it with Google. Okay, they get there, so they look at the website. I guess you could lose people right there.
Yep, sure.
So what kind of things make a website stand out, might be the question.
There's a number of things.
Or make
we
it
like to think
clickable.
about. Right, yeah. There's a number of things we like to think about. One of them is relevance. So if somebody's looking for a particular thing, and if they find it on your homepage, that's a small win right there.
Okay.
Things like how easy is it to navigate, because they might not find it on the homepage. They may need to click around a little bit.
Okay.
So ease of being able to find stuff. And one of the things that we always like to do from a marketing perspective is give our clients measurable ways to track activity on the website. So, for instance, if you put a big button on your homepage that says, contact us, and that gets clicked a lot, that's a good measure that you're doing something right. Similarly, if you know that somebody's coming to you for a particular kind of information, you may want to put that into like a document that can be downloaded and request that somebody gives you their email address in order to download it. So that way you get their email address and it's easier to market to them. They get the information that you want, and you've sort of created a lead for yourself.
Okay.
So things like that, things like professional design, ease of finding information, the ability to get the information that you want, and I guess that on a top level is
right. That sounds like the
key
major
pieces.
things, and then clarity is kind of just part of one of the things that you just said.
Yep.
So that if I can understand what I'm looking at, that helps.
Yep, for sure.
Now, is that the front end? Because I've learned a new word from your website, the back end.
Oh, yeah.
Do you handle both?
We do, yeah.
Okay, and
Yep.
you want to talk about the front end and the back end and how they work together and who might care?
Yeah, sure. Most people don't care. I care because I work in it.
Right.
The front end is everything you see. The back end is all of the code that makes it work. That makes it look the way that.
I was thinking the back end would be more like functionality. Like, it's nice to say, click here to buy it, but if you have a lot of very efficient code behind it, it makes it easy and efficient for people to buy it. Like, I don't like a website where I miss something and it erases everything that I just put in because I forgot to put the zip code.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit of both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, would it vary by company how important that back end is?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Websites can be infinitely complex. The clients of ours who simply need a place to inform their visitors about what it is that they do typically only need a nice design, the right messaging, and some of the basic things.
Maybe if I'm the American Red Cross, you're not going to buy blood from the website.
Right. However, the Red Cross probably does need some fairly advanced functionality on the back end. Let's say you want to volunteer and you're in Albany. Wouldn't it be great if you could just type in 12210 and it would say, here's the 5 Red Cross branches that are nearest to you, and we calculated the mileage to each one of them. That
sounds like something a large retail store would do, and maybe I wouldn't have expected it from the Red Cross.
Yep, absolutely. I think what we're finding is that things that used to be isolated to a lot of more commerce-oriented businesses are now becoming expected across the web. Visitors expect that.
So that really puts a strain on people like local government, where people come to our site and say, well, that's a nice picture, but I want to do this, and I want to have my signs, and I want to work with the zoning board, and why can't I just upload my plans? And
Right. Yep.
So how do you think about the whole process? Let's say, I mean, sometimes people have to come to a person and get some help, but in terms of knowing where to turn and how to think about it before they even start looking for a company to help them, how do they kind of divide up the process of what's involved in my, what should we say, digital marketing?
I think the real key question that you have to answer before you start looking for a partner is, what specifically am I really trying to accomplish here?
So you can communicate with them.
Right. Because having that answer will make a marketing agency's recommendations very different. Some people just need to get their name in front of, like startup businesses just need to make a name for themselves. You'd approach that differently than somebody who's already doing a couple $100,000 worth of business through their website and wants to increase that by 10%.
Okay.
They're vastly different approaches. So you really have to know, where am I going with this and how will I measure my success?
So you probably get customers in a range of knowledgeability, to create a word that's probably not a word. But,
Yeah.
Some customers probably come to you and say, I've been noticing that my search engine is not coming up properly, and that I think my return on investment on this website's probably fallen off a little bit.
Yep.
I know we talked before. And then somebody else says, I think maybe I need help.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I know
Absolutely.
how to make donuts. I don't know how to do marketing.
Yep, yep.
So how do you decide how to communicate with a customer in the second phase?
Yeah, we one of the things that sort of falls on us is most of our clients need us to help them define what that goal is.
So you're actually a little bit of I don't want to say a job counselor, but
yeah,
a counselor to like a marketing plan.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of people will call a marketing agency at that point where they're kind of lost and they don't know what to do next. One of the things that's really our responsibility, and one of the most important parts of the whole process, is helping people to define what their goals are, helping them to look at what goals might be out there, pick what's most realistic, and then figure out a path to get there and a way to measure it along the way. Yeah, it's
So in a way, we were talking before we started, and we're talking about web marketing, but you can't talk about web marketing without basic marketing in place, right?
Yeah, I mean, marketing is marketing. At the end of the day, you need to put the right message in front of the right people, and that's how marketing works.
Okay.
One of the reasons why web marketing has become such a niche is because the details of how it's done are so different, and often it's more cost effective than things like broadcast or things like outdoor billboards or things like that.
So that gets into a whole new realm of conversation, how to choose your medium.
Yep, absolutely.
You mentioned that your company merged from two companies, and one had billboards. So that sounds like a real bricks and mortar kind of
Yep.
a very old school side.
Yep. And there's still a big need for that stuff. Again, it really depends on the client. Somebody who's trying to run a web business and do business through a website probably doesn't need to take out billboards. But somebody who's trying to make a larger effect on the economy of a particular region, like some of our clients are, they need their message in front of as many people as possible. So sometimes some of the bigger, more old school or more traditional approaches can give you that sort of critical volume that web can't.
And there are a lot of people who, it's hard to believe, but there are probably some people who don't live on the internet.
Yep, sure.
Still, I mean, they're senior citizens, they're people who are just busy.
Yep.
There are times when some people seem to be on Facebook their whole life. They're always posting pictures of everything they do.
Yeah.
But other times, a lot of people are probably too busy, and they realize they need this, but they're driving down the highway, and if they see that billboard, it's probably more effective to reach that kind of person. They don't have time.
Yep, it can be. Yep. Yeah.
Let's go into a couple of things about what have you seen people do really wrong in terms of web marketing?
Sure. I like to call it the Dartboard Approach. It's when social media started to become a thing, the kind of news about social media was, hey, it's inexpensive.
It's inexpensive.
Right.
Okay.
So everybody said, oh, great, a cheap way to, it's marketing that I don't have to pay much for.
Okay.
Well, that's true. But at the end of the day, you still have to do it right. You're not going to get anything just by creating a Facebook page. It's not going to turn into business for you. You
right.
know? So the kind of just picking a tactic and trying it out for 3 months, not getting any results, and then saying to yourself, marketing doesn't work, is a very common mistake.
Wow.
The other one, I think, is not having a plan. I forget who said it, but there's if you don't know where you're going, you're not ever going to get there.
Right. It's an old one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That applies to marketing, but also it applies to business in general. You really have to have a sense of who am I selling whatever it is that I'm selling to? What is it that they want? And how can I meet them on their terms? And then how can I get my message and my business in front of those people? Not having those things in place makes marketing a lot less efficient. It'd be like if I wanted to drive over here, but I didn't bother to look up directions first. I'd probably get here eventually, but it might take me a few hours.
Right.
Yep.
And yeah, with the roundabout out there, you could be
you're stuck there for a
thrown
day.
off a little while. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the other side of that, what kind of new things are there? What kind of things have you seen people doing well?
Yep. We've seen some really interesting stuff happening in social media. On the one side, there's the people who just try it out and they don't really think about it first, and they end up not getting much out of it. But then there's the people who really think about it and understand the medium and are doing some really creative things that traditional marketing doesn't allow you to do. Facebook makes it really easy to have other people do your marketing for you. And if you can incentivize them in the right way, or sort of make it a game for them, it's easier to spread the message that way. So,
in terms of Facebook, I think that's especially true, and maybe a little bit in the web. But you want to also manage negative things, and you want to. I guess on the web, a negative thing could be somebody wants to contact you and tell you of a problem or something they're annoyed with. On Facebook, they may have just put it right out there where everybody can read it.
Yep, yeah, that happens all the time.
So what advice do you have for people in terms of managing potentially negative publicity, or using it positively?
Yep, that's, you can see it in two different ways, and I think you kind of hit on one. How do you use that positively? Typically what we recommend for people is, if you find that you're getting negative comments someplace, respond professionally. I'm sorry to hear that you're having trouble with this. I want to make sure that I can help you as best as I can. And then take the conversation offline as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Say, hey, I want to help you solve this. Here's my email address, or here's my phone number. Please give me a call and let me know how we can fix this for you. And
for anybody who's not a Facebook person, I think I know enough to actually answer half of this. When you say take it offline, first of all, other people may have seen it, and so if you have some kind of professional short, but don't kill the horse, just answer the question in a positive way for everybody to see. And then you can send that person an email on the side personally and deal with it with them. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. And if you really want, if at the end of that conversation you've solved the problem for the person, a good thing to do if you feel like you've built the rapport with them is to ask them to, hey, would you mind going back on Facebook and just saying, hey, thanks very much for your help, I appreciate it. Okay, because now that you've taken it offline, that's gone. Right. Okay. Because those things live forever. What you really don't want to do is if you're getting negative comments, you don't want to just delete them, because that's a really good way to make that commenter comment a lot more. Right. Now, what about comments that are not quite relevant? Yeah. You don't want to insult your customers, but you don't want it to turn into something else. Yep. Yeah, that's very true. Boy, that's a really good question. I haven't thought about that before. I think what I might do in that situation, and whether this is good marketing practice or not, is just say, "Oh yeah, that's an interesting idea," and leave it at that. So that's that goes back to the teacher who can say, I don't know, and I'll. Yeah. It's never bad to do, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Is there anything new and exciting coming? Well, we've seen. Well, Google has changed a bit. Yeah. We should go back to that. I think you told me that last year Google changed quite a bit of how they ranked things. We don't want to get technical again, but right. Is that new enough to talk about, or just to say something about? Yeah, I think so. What Google seems to want now is a lot of fresh and relevant content. You know, it's more and more about publishing articles or videos or things that are actually going to be useful to whoever your end user is. You know, they're not as concerned with keywords anymore. It's more about how is your site helping your visitors.
Wow.
And there's ways that they measure that, how long people spend on the site and things like that.
So it's another dimension of what causes a ranking, it sounds like. Of course, they don't want to give you something that's totally irrelevant,
Right.
unless you paid them a lot.
Right.
But if they go to that second dimension, now they're looking at how rich and effective is your site.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. They're moving more in the direction of what is the user's experience on your website, as opposed to what is their experience on our search engine.
Is that because they've been measuring a lot of things about usage, and now they're able to draw conclusions from that?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of building a pyramid here.
Absolutely. They have. I can't imagine the amount of data they have, but I'm sure if I'm sure it's more than we can even fathom.
I can't. Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. They released a patent last year that dealt with, you know, looking at the stats of a website and how that would factor into rankings. So they didn't say, hey, we're going to start to do this, but they filed a patent for some software on it last year. So it doesn't take much to sort of put two and two together and see which direction they're moving
Right.
in.
They're going to use it if they're not already using it.
Right. Right.
Anything exciting other than that you know of coming up?
Yeah. I think what we really need to get out ahead of is mobile.
In other words, smartphones, or?
Yep, smartphones, tablets, specifically smartphones. Mobile marketing is already sort of the biggest trend in marketing, and I think it's going to be for at least the next couple of years, and particularly because not everybody in the world can afford a laptop. Not everybody in the world can afford a computer, but almost everybody has a smartphone at this point.
And our pockets are a lot smaller than a computer would fit in.
Right, right. But marketing on mobile allows you to hit a much broader range of people than marketing on the web does, because not everybody has that access. It's kind of what you were talking about earlier. There are still people who don't spend a lot of time on the web.
Is one of the problems with that, with mobile or smartphone advertisement and web presence, have to do with you need a different kind of a website? Because I've had this happen. I would prefer often to use the real website than what they're giving me for a mobile site, because I see about half their page. I mean, I don't even get all the data when I look at their mobile website. So is that just a bad mobile website?
Yeah, most likely it hasn't been optimized for mobile. You really do need separate websites at this point. On the Burst website, I think 20% or so of our traffic comes from mobile devices.
Really?
So we really need a site that works nicely on an iPhone, on an iPad, on the Google Nexus, on the BlackBerry, and on the internet, and on big screens, small screens. You have to plan a website much differently now than you did even 2 or 3 years ago.
So you almost need 2 different programming systems, or how do you put that together? It sounds like we need a whole new batch of software to manage the fact that we have these disparate systems.
Mm-hmm. There's an approach to that called responsive design right now, and if the Boston Globe website is a really good example of that. If you look at the Boston Globe website on your computer and you grab the corner of it and sort of drag it smaller, you'll notice that the layout shifts as you drag it.
I will go do that.
It's interesting. It's kind of cool to watch. That approach seems to be the best approach to kind of solving this issue now. But I mean, wait 6 months and there might be a whole nother approach to it.
Okay. I know the Times Union, they paid someone to come up with a site, and they actually managed to keep the same content, the same feel, much like the New York Times has done.
Yep.
And it makes it almost easier to use than the newspaper, the paper one.
Mm-hmm.
So is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yep, very similar. Yep.
Well, this is exciting. I think our time is about up. Anything that you'd like to say? What is Burst Marketing looking to do in the near future?
That's a good question. I think for us, the big challenge is always staying ahead of what is changing in the marketing world.
And being an expert at it.
Right, yeah. For us, it's all about looking at the new technologies that are out there and making sure that our clients we're giving our clients the knowledge and the guidance to use them in the right ways. to work them into what is really an overall strategy that will accomplish what that goal is that they've set out for themselves.
And for that, you need that broad-based marketing approach.
Yeah, you really need to know. You really need to know overall, where is this whole thing going? Where are you trying to go with this? So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. I think if you were to talk to a lot of other agencies, you'd find the same thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show, that you tune in again next time, and have a great week. Take care. Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.